All right, so the next topic is talking about leadership, and then we'll look at the style of leadership and the common style of leadership, which is seen as the type that aligns with Agile and has been used by several organizations, is called the servant leadership. This is seen to be the best practice for leading an Agile team. That is, anyone that will lead an Agile team must be someone who will lead the team as if he's a servant. And what that means is that is someone who does not impose his own decision on others. Some Prince2 could also be said to be in conflict with this. However, the servant leadership is about empowerment, collaboration, facilitating, and there's nothing in Prince2 that limits the use of the servant leadership. Let me just show us through this short video. Before the video, you can see how a servant leader work. There's what they call a power reliant leader. And the way that person work is he leads by control and giving commands. And such a power reliant leader use the employee as a tool and only see the customer as those who are challengers. That is a power reliant leader. Opposite of power reliant leader is a servant leader. In a servant leader, the leader inspires and equips people. It is all about the people. A servant leader sees the employee as resources. A servant leader sees the customer as a valued allies. Let me play a short video so we can better understand what it is. Are you able to hear it? Okay, I will share the sound. Just a minute. Mm, 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 mm. Okay, maybe I would just give you the link and then you can play it yourself. I'll just share the link. I think that's better for me. Let me share the link with you and you can on your own you can play it. Where is mm. Okay, so I've sent you the link. You can play it later on. That only just talk about the more about what a servant leader is all about. Again, the focus is empowerment, collaboration, and facilitation. I can tell you a story about where this has been used. There was a case of a sailor, okay, and he used this principle to be able to save all the crew And what he did was anytime they meet him to ask for permission, all he will ask them, or anytime they go to him to ask, what do you think we should do in this situation? The answer he gives back to them is, what is their own idea? And whenever he asks of their ideas, he tells them, okay, the idea is good, carry it out. Sometimes he would add one or two things to the idea, and by virtue of that, the team were coming up with more ideas. And that is the advantage of a servant leader, someone who collaborates, someone who is not dictating, who does not think he knows it all. And that is the kind of skill a project manager or a scrum manager or product owner should have. All right, incorporating a wider customer view. The simplicity of the product owner role has limitation in a project context, such as the size of the project and also the size of the role. Some agile approaches have a restrictive view of the customer, the product owner role in Scrum. This is restrictive in the sense that there is only one role representing the customer. So in a project, the role that the customer is expected to fill is the role of product owner. That is like somebody from the customer side who is representing the customer. This is seen as having advantage because it is one point of contact, but in some complex and multifaceted projects, this is not always an ideal scenario. So the Prince2 Agile tries to ensure that you have a wider view of customer presence on a project, and this will help to cover high level of requirements and detailed requirements from specialist area that needs to be reflected in the project. The senior user is ultimately responsible. The product owner operates best from inside a delivery team. So that is the way Prince2 Agile sees it. In a full-fledged Agile project, they always use one person who is from the business side, a product owner, and then the project manager, usually from outside of the organization, and then those who deliver the project can be within the team, I mean within the organization, or a mix of partners and customer technical staff that carry out the projects. So a specialist role is like the role of those who carry out the work. That's what we call specialists. The recommendation is that when you have a large project, it is too narrow or it is not advisable to use only product owner role as the only role coming from the organization. You can also use a senior user role as well. Also, sometimes the product owner can also be part of the people delivering the projects. So the application differs depending on the size of the project. Okay, what do we call a working agreement? Everyone agreeing how to do something is a good idea, but how to execute or manifest it sometimes can be tricky. So there should be a set of rules that should guide how people will work in the team, how they will collaborate. So working agreements is about defining how work should be done collaboratively. It is built on consensus and it should be built with care. These working agreements are typically made visible. I'll give you an example. When a sprint is beginning, there's what they call a sprint planning. Or let me put it this way, the first sprint, which is like sprint zero, is used to plan. Now, when you are doing the planning, the people that will carry out the work and other members of the team that will support, they will all agree. For example, if my own task is to install a live chat on the website and to make sure that the live chat on the website is working fine, if that is my task, I have to specify how long it will take me to achieve it. And everybody will agree that, okay, I can achieve the task in 2 days. That's a working agreement. Someone else can say, no, 2 days is too small, 4 days. Sometimes, when there is no agreement, when people are saying different things, then to get an agreement, you use different methods. One of the common method is you allow people to vote to choose how many days they think such work should be done. So someone can put 1 day, and that person will say 3 days, 2 days. Then you take the average, and that is why we say you should what, build it on consensus. So working agreement can be by consensus. When it's difficult, or someone is saying, oh, this work will take me 10 days, and others feel that no, 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 10 days is too much, you should be able to do it in 3 days. So you can put it to vote. Everybody put your date, suggested date. You think this work can be done, and based on that, average will be arrived at, and that will be collaboration defined built by consensus. I hope you understand. Can you hear me? All right. Principles and behaviors. Agile has a strong focus on principle. All Prince2 principles are also applicable. The Prince2 Agile identify 5 behaviors that should be monitored. When we are talking about principles and behavior, these are huge area as far as Agile is concerned. If you remember, when we started the Agile and we're talking about the Agile methodology, our Agile, the manifesto, yeah, in Agile manifesto, you talk more about what kind of method are we looking at. So the method and the approach is a mix of principle and behaviors. What kind of behavior should be found in agile way of work? And that's what we will look at under this topic. Okay, what are the things that can guide us? The Prince2 principles. Prince2 gives principles that organization can use as far as managing a project is concerned. And these principles are still relevant to agile and to any other form of projects. What are the principles? One, continual business justification. Every project you do, as you move from one sprint to the other, there should be a continual business justification. Let us take, for example, someone is trying to start a new a project, and the project is manufacturing of cars. Now, let us assume he has done some parts, and then the next part is to decide whether he should use petrol, he should use both petrol and electricity, electric cars, or just electric cars. So the continual business justification is, from time to time, you have to look at it. Is there a continual justification for this new phase? Anytime there is no continual justification, project can be closed. Project should not necessarily wait till the time it is meant to close. There can be a premature closure of a project if the project fail the first principle, because the business justification is the rationale behind the minimum viable products. If there's no continual business justification, then such project should not continue. Like I mentioned the example, a project that you want to produce a car, and the car will be diesel car. Two things: diesel car cause more pollution, and everybody is talking about reducing carbon emission, reducing pollution in the air. Two, dependent on fuel, on diesel, on petroleum products. The world is moving away from there. So that is also another reason why hybrid or electric will be something that will support continual business justification. So if there's no continual business justification, there's no point to continue the projects. Learn from experience, another principle. Learn from experience. Every project you're supposed to keep a record called lesson learned, which should help you, and you should refer to it anytime you are doing a similar projects. Agile also supports this. Learn from experience. Next principle, define roles and responsibility. People should know what they are meant to do. The roles should be clearly mapped out. You are doing ABC. Sometimes people select what they want to do, and that's also part of working agreements. In agile projects, the way work is done, for example, in a project management or in agile project management that is software, you are supposed to have pool of developers who can do similar work. So if a particular work is to be done, people can pick which one they want to do, and they must commit to it. So roles and responsibilities should be mapped. Manage by stages. It's another principle. What does it mean to manage by stages? It means you should have a time box. What is the duration you want to use to complete a task? A stage, a sprint is 2 weeks or 4 weeks if it is software. Or most agile projects are done in 2 weeks to 4 weeks interval. That is so the completion time is the stage managed by stages. That is, break the work into sprints. Each stage should be like 2 to 4 weeks. Managed by exception. What does that mean? It means that if there are issues that cannot allow you to complete the projects, you need to escalate to people higher for exception. If you need any ex- extra time more than the time you are given, then you have to escalate to people with higher level of governance. That is managed by exception. You don't just extend the time yourself, you need to escalate. Next one, focus on product, meaning there should be a focus on what you want to deliver and the quality. Next one, which is number 7, is tailor to suit the projects. Every project will always be different from each other. So you must carry out all the works you need to do, assess the risk associated with the projects that you are doing based on Agile. So you must always tailor to suit the projects. The things that work when you are doing a particular project, that may not work, the approach may not work for another project. So you must, even when you learn about Prince2 and Agile, you still have to tailor it to the project environment, because there are different projects with different duration, different environment, different industry, and so that's why we tailor our projects very well. Okay, what are the agile ways? 5 behaviors which should be found in every project that are managed by agile. These behaviors also covers what is called principles, values, and attitude. These behaviors are also referred to as the principles, the values, and the attitudes which epitomize agile. What are they? One, transparency. What is mean of transparency? Transparency means you should not allow people to work in a team and hide what they are doing from others. You should let people know that agile encourages transparency. Transparency. And transparency only comes when there is trust. And that's why we said the agile team are self-organizing. You have to organize yourself. You work with people you can trust and you must trust each other. So transparency is important. Another one is collaboration. You need to collaborate. Whatever you don't know very well, you don't need to begin to spend all the time to learn about it. You can ask for help from other people. You can collaborate and support others and seek for support from others. Rich communication, you should communicate appropriately. Self-organizing and also explore. Exploration means you should be able to try out new ideas, new ways of work, try out new approach. That is, those are the five key behaviors or principles or values or attitude which agile relates with. And that's how you know if a project is agile. The behavior of the people. Are they transparent? How do you know they are transparent? There are some tools that can help you with transparency. There's a tool called Kanban. We are still going to talk about it, where you specify what you are doing, what you plan to do, what you have completed, and from time to time you move the item you have in progress to done when you have completed it. And everybody knows, everybody can see what each person has completed. That is transparency. And they can see how long it took you to complete it. Agilometer. What is agilometer? Agilometer is essential because this is a risk assessment for how appropriate agile is for a given project. As we have said, agile is not for all kind of projects. Most projects, many projects can be executed through agile. So how do you know if a particular project should use agile or not? And that's why we use something called agilometer. Measure. How do you size that this project best fits agile method? This one fits waterfall approach. And this agilometer is supposed to be used at the start of a project, and you use it throughout the project. A project manager should facilitate this. This help to make an informed decision. After the assessment is done, you can also improve. The question is always how much and not yes or no. That is, it is not that you will not use Agile at all. How much of Agile can you use for this project? How much of it? Not whether to use it at all or not to use it completely. All right. So you can create a kind of a grading from 1 to 5. 1 is lowest, is the lowest, 5 is the highest. The agilometer in Prince2 Agile has 6 key areas. These key areas represent the starting points, and you can always modify it. What are the key areas? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So these are all the key areas. In order to know how much of Agile can you use or can you blend with your projects, you have to base it on 6 key areas. The first one, flexibility on what is delivered. How flexible is it? Is it one, two, three, or four, or five? What is the level of collaboration? What is the ease of communication? If you remember this collaboration, communication, they are part of what? They are part of the behavior. Communication, collaboration, they are part of the agile behavior. So they are used as a way to know how much of agile you can use in your projects. So response to these will determine. These are slider, and you can always engage with people to give you their own best response. And their response will tell you whether agile should be used, to what extent it should be used in a project. To what extent agile should be used in a project. Okay, what is risk? Risk is also another theme in Prince2, and risk theme has a very little prominence and also little around what is called agile. And the reason why a lot of agile do not want to consider risk is because risk and experimentation, they are like word and opposites. Do we understand that? Risk, part of the behavior of agile is what? Exploration. Look at this word. Exploration. Exploration is like experimenting. Now, risk and exploration, they are like word and opposites. What I meant by that is that the risk of trying to explore new things, the risk that it will fail is always very high. Do you agree? The risk of trying something new completely, the risk of not getting it at first time is high. Do you agree? So that is why some people believe that risk should not be part of agile, because risk many a times prevent people from exploring. So rather than not consider risk at all, the best approach is to address your risk on a daily basis. In agile, there's something called stand-up meeting. Stand-up meeting is a meeting of 15 minutes every day. There should be a meeting. People who are in the project, those who are members of the project team, they must meet every day, 15 minutes every day. That's why it is called daily stand-up meeting. What did they discuss there? What happened yesterday? What individual will report what they did yesterday? What they are going to do today? They will also raise if there is any risk, if there is any issue that can make them not to carry out their activity, why they were not successful in doing what they planned to do yesterday, and why they may still not be able to do it today. They address their risk on a daily basis. Another thing to consider under risk is risk does not prevent the approach of exploration. Rather, risk only says you should try to fail safely, because when you explore, the risk of failure is high, but you must make it a safe failure. There's something called fail safely. Don't fail. For example, somebody wants to make a change, you want to try out something new. Try it out on non-production system. Don't try it out on a production system that everybody is using. If you are going to try it out on a production system, then try it out maybe in the midnight when many people are not using it, so that if it fail, you can easily go back and it will not affect many people, because a lot of people are not using the system in the midnight. So Agile has risk areas of its own, and you can assess it with Agilometer. The 5 behaviors in Prince2 Agile can help you to manage risk. We've mentioned those behavior. Those behavior are what? Transparency, collaboration, okay, communication. Those are behaviors of Prince2 Agile. Managing product delivery. How do you manage a product delivery? Product delivery is also one of the areas in Agile framework which is used. Managing a product delivery is about managing the interface to the product delivery. What you may find is there's a strong focus in the area of managing the product delivery and the product delivery practices. When people are carrying out a project, they are carrying out a project to deliver products. They start with a minimum viable product and they start improving on it. So the product delivery management is you manage the interface to the product delivery. Scrum manages product delivery. Kanban can be used here as well. You can use Kanban. Kanban is a way by which you promote visibility, a way by which we show work, the flow of work, a way by which we make the flow of work visible so that people or everyone is able to see and know where you are. We'll still draw a diagram to show that later. Okay, what do we do in managing product delivery? We use work packages. In Prince2, there's something called work packages. What is work packages? Work packages is the piece of work that is allocated to people. The piece of work. When you want to manage a product delivery, the product will be delivered based on the individual or the different work packages that has been assigned to people. And when a work package is assigned, you need to define the tolerance. What do you mean by tolerance? Tolerance is the allowed variation. By what size can you vary this work package? That's what you call tolerance. For example, you ask somebody to do a piece of work for 1 week. So you can give a tolerance of 2 days. That means the person should do it between 5 days to 7 days. That's what you call tolerance. So you must also describe the kind of products that will agree or that the work package will eventually support. If you have a product description and the product description is not well known, then the packages may not fit in well. You need to agree also on the quality, when to release it. All those agreements must be done based on the work allocated to individual or group of 1 or 2 people within a team. Okay, how it might look managing product delivery. You define a work package in many ways, and how the interface between the product manager and the delivery and the TM is handled. So when you're talking about the TM, that's the team manager, your work packages should be collaboratively defined. What does it mean? Give work to people that they can also get support from others. Don't give work to people that they cannot get anyone to support them, no one to ask for help from. Also, reporting arrangements have an appropriate level of formality, that is, who to report to. That's also very important. Who to report to. People who are carrying out a work package must know who they are to report the work to. What is a work package? A work package is a vital interface to blend with a project. A work package or work packages are collaboratively defined. That means they are defined not only by the scrum master or project manager or the team manager, they are defined with the inputs of the people who carry out the work. That is also a way of implementing the main thing we mentioned, which is what? Collaboration. You must provide guidance on the behavior and how the quality will be checked. What are the quality techniques that will be used? How should the work be reported? Those are part of the things we do under work packages. So work package can be allocated to one person, two or three people can together and do a work package as well. Okay, what is Scrum? Scrum is one of the framework that is used to implement Agile. It's one of the Agile environments, and as a matter of fact, is one of the common one. So it's a framework for developing and sustaining complex products using Agile. In Scrum, you have collection of roles, events, artifacts, and rules. And Scrum is a way to assess efficiency of your practice so you can improve on it. Scrum lays emphasis on transparency. Scrum lays emphasis on transparency, on inspection, as well as adaptation. Scrum believe that decisions should be based on evidence and you should be transparent. There should be some level of transparency in the work each person is doing in the team. When we talk about Scrum team, a Scrum team is a self-organizing team, meaning that that team can carry out, can deliver the product without anybody from outside of the team being fully part of the work. The Scrum team is self-organizing. They don't need so much help from outside, so to say. It's also cross-functional. In a Scrum team, you bring people from different functional areas, people from development, those who are programmers. You bring those people who are in charge of operating the server. You bring people in charge of cybersecurity. That is cross-functional. People from different functional areas. Scrum team is cross-functional. If you look at it from the point of view of building construction, Scrum team will be what? People who are doing plumbing work, people who are doing electrical work, people who are doing the um, civil engineering work. That is cross-functional. These teams are flexible, they are creative, they are productive. The team creates something. They are flexible. And the roles that exist between them, what are the roles that are common in Scrum? So in Scrum, you have a product owner. A product owner is usually somebody from the business. You have a development team. Development team are those who are carrying out the development work. And you have the Scrum Master, who is like a project manager, who is overseeing the project, okay, who is managing the project on a day to day. A product owner is someone who is in charge of the product backlog, if you can call it that way. A Scrum Master is more about carrying out each of the sprints to make sure the work delivers. Is is always a Scrum Master is in the meeting every day, stand-up meeting. A Scrum Master is there. A product owner may be there, may not be there. Okay, Scrum events. These are prescribed to create regularity. Every event has a maximum duration. For example, there is something they call daily stand-up. That's one of the events of Scrum. There are many other events. There's an event called retrospective. That is, each time you finish a particular sprint, you need to do a meeting to discuss how each person contributed, to discuss what were the things that help you, what were the things that were initial setback in the project, what were the difficulties, share your experience so that you can learn from it and use that to help you in the next one. So those are examples of events, and these events are supposed to have a time. Like the daily stand-up should be 15 minutes, and these events make people to be transparent because each person contributes, each person must talk. it also provides opportunity to inspect what each person is doing and also make people to be able to adapt. So this is high level of Scrum for you. Okay, if you look at this high level, you will see there are like 5 events here. From outside here, what do you see? Product owner, that is PO. Who is the product owner? Is the person that is representing the business, the organization that is giving out the projects. That is their representative is product owner. This product owner is in charge of product backlog. What's the product backlog? Everything that the project is to deliver, all the futures with their priority specify. Then you have the Scrum Master and the development team that needs to plan. They need to have a plan based on this product backlog. There's need for a plan of which of these do we start with. When they pick the one to start with, they need to also break down what are the things they will do under each of the piece of work under the particular product description they pick. For example, if it is e-commerce websites with live chats, with payment gateway, then the development team and the scrum master will do a planning. And the planning is within 2 to 4 weeks, what can we achieve? Okay, we cannot achieve the integration with payment gateway because of several regulations. Because we are going to talk to third party, we are going to get permissions, approvals. So let us start with a basic website that has the detailed information about the company, the product pictures are there, and then the addresses, the account number of the organization, the phone number, and all that. That is a product, I mean, a sprint backlog. So they plan what they want to do and they put it as a backlog and they'll be picking the item one by one. So the Scrum Master engages with the development team on a daily basis. You can see every 24 hours, what do they do? Daily Scrum meeting. This Scrum meeting is called daily stand up or daily Scrum meeting. Every day they do it. Now, why do they do it? They do it to ensure every member of this development team they carry their weight. Each person tells everybody else what he's doing. This person tells everybody else. Each person must say what they are doing, and Scrum Master must listen. And then, if anyone has any issue, why what he or she planned to do a day before was not achieved, he or she has to say it there. Okay? And then the PO, which is the product owner, by the time this development team completes their work, they need to do a review of what they have achieved in that sprint. In that review, they need to bring in the product owner. After the review, they need to also do something called sprint retrospective. So this planning is one event. This daily scrum is another event. Sprint is another event. Retrospect. So there are 5 events that takes place in every sprint. So it means within the space of 2 to 4 weeks, this event must take place. One of them takes place every time, every day. Retrospective, what is retrospective? Retrospective is people rating what happened, the good, the bad, what can be improved. That is retrospective. And in that meeting too, the PO must be there. What are the event again? They do a sprint, They do planning for the sprints, they do daily scrum, they do a review of the sprints, and they also do retrospective. Retrospective is like a lesson learned based on the sprints they have completed. Now, what's the sprint review? A sprint review is to plan for the next sprint, review the next one they want to do, and then the review will also see what they can take into the next sprint. For example, they plan to achieve 10 things in the sprint, and they were only able to achieve 8. The remaining two, they need to push it to the next sprint. And those are things they identify under sprint review. Sprint retrospective is identifying what worked, what did not work, what could be improved upon in the next sprint. Also, during the sprint retrospective, they acknowledge those who supported very well. Input of people, you know, is also being um, people that collaborate more, support each other more. They mention it. They give credit to whoever the credit is due to. Okay, Acti- artifact. What is artifact? Artifact talks about what is like the document they work with, things they work with. They work with a product backlog. It is from this product backlog they pick the sprints they are going to work on. Remember, we talked about user stories. We said user stories, two or more user stories, called an epic. This product backlog is the one that contains the epic. Then a particular user story or two or more that they can accommodate within 2 to 4 weeks is what is called a sprint. A sprint backlog is the list of items or list of task activities to be carried out. And then increment. Increment means from time to time they can always take from backlog, bring it to sprints. From product backlog, if they finish early, they can bring more to the sprint backlog. Since they have completed all the other things in the sprint backlog and they have not finished the 2 to 4 weeks, they have to add more. They don't go on leave because everybody doesn't stop working because they finish it in 3 weeks. The remaining 1 week, they should increment. Okay, planning. Planning is another. Which one? Okay, so when we talk about the artifact, hey, can you please put yourself on silence because I can hear echo. All right, thank you. So the Scrum artifacts, that is like repository of where all the futures, the user stories, the task where they are documented. So the product backlog is where all the products description, futures, priority level, that is where they are. Okay? And what you need to know, especially, is that the product backlog is managed by who? Product owner. This artifact is owned by product owner. Product owner can also add more to it if the business needs or require. Product owner can also change the priority level. In this backlog, you have what are the user stories, set of user stories that want to be achieved, all the futures, and the level of priority. Then the product owner is the one that manages it. That's very important. Number two, sprint backlog. The sprint is a subset of the product backlog, and it's a subset based on the next highest priority. And this sprint backlog, okay, is taken out of product backlog by the development team. They are the one that take it out, and the scrum master is the one that maintain this sprint backlog. is the one that check every time to see within 2 to 4 weeks how these different tasks are being taken over. They call it burn down, how the task is being burned down. Again, when a particular sprint backlog is completely burned down, what should happen is that the scrum master should increment, that is, take more from the product backlog and bring it to the sprint backlog. Any question? Do you understand it now? Okay. All right. Plan in terms of general, many people experienced in Agile will think of story points and planning poker. Remember, I mentioned this before, but I didn't give you the name. There's what they call story points and planning poker. What do you do with it? Remember, we said when a user story is specified, there should be a sizing of the duration of the timeline when it will be, how long it will take for the work to be done. Okay, that requires planning. So there are ways by which you carry out the plan. One of the ways is by using story points. Each story, each user story can have a point scoring system that will give a point attached to it. Based on that point, the higher the point, the higher the duration, the time it takes to achieve it. That is one. Another one is planning poker. Planning poker. What is planning poker? Planning poker is people suggesting time they think the work should take or the work will take. For example, assuming the three of us are doing a project, we're in a project team, and there's a particular work we want to do. Even if I'm not the one to to do that aspect of the work, I will take part in providing my own estimated time. Another person will also provide, the third person will also provide. So the average of it will be used. That is a planning poker approach. So those are the approach of planning. Okay. Prince2 supports any planning style. Any planning style is okay as far as Prince2 is concerned. A project that is managed by Prince2 needs to have an end date. That is the truth. Every project must have a start and end dates. So within the start and end dates, you have to define what you want to do, and your planning must cover those time. You should not plan outside of your end dates. Remember, we talked about flexing and what you should not flex. Okay, we said we should not flex the time. Estimation, we can use some form of point system for estimation. Thinking behind the wisdom of crowds. That is what we can work with. Thinking behind the wisdom of crowds, which is called cognitive anchoring, can be of advantage. We can estimate work. Team members should estimate work. So the estimates is important because the estimates help to know how long it will take to actually carry out a particular work. So there's something called Fibonacci sequence or T-shirt sizing, which are very popular system to estimate how long it will take to carry out a particular task. Okay, progress. Progress, what does it mean? Progress is similar to plan. Progress another team. Progress is similar to plan. Progress is a way by which we know how far have we gone in the project vis-a-vis the time. That's what progress help you to know. How far have you gone? And when we are talking about progress, we normally use something called burn charts. Burn chart, it's like burn down. Burn down is how many, if you have 4 weeks for a project. By the second week, ordinarily you have how many? 50% of the time left. So the burn down chart will show how much of the work you plan to do in 4 weeks, how much of it have you completed. Work in progress, that will show how many work are you currently doing, the one you have not completed. The reason why we use these burn charts and work in progress is just to make the work, the project transparent, so everybody knows what how far the team is, whether the team is behind or whether the team is almost, you know, about to complete the work vis-a-vis the time left. What is the guidance for progress? It's important to know what has been delivered, and that's what you can see with progress. How many things has been delivered vis-a-vis all that are planned to be delivered against the time. So the progress shows how things are going, and it is important that these techniques, people need to be comfortable with the formats. Some people like to work and they don't like people to know how they are doing the work. They just want to surprise people that okay, the job, the task you are given to do for 3 days, you leave it undone and you say you will crash it by one day to the end, you will finish it. That is not good. It's not a good technique. You are to take the work and burn it down gradually, not crash it in one day. And that is what progress shows. Progress shows whether you are doing the work gradually or you are waiting for the last day before you start, you know, to rush out, to try to rush everything and get it done in one day. So what is burn chart? Burn chart is a popular techniques. There are two types of burn chart. There's a burn down and there is a burn up chart. We'll show you a diagram to show burn down and burn up. We can display this in form of graph, x and y axis. The burn chart, the burn down, both of them are called burn chart. You can see burn, burn. But one is burn down, the other one is burn up. The burn down assume amount of work that does not change. The burn up should be used if the amount of work is likely to change. If the amount of work that is to be done is fixed, then you use burn down charts. You already know what we are doing, the amount of work, it doesn't change, then you use burn down. So you see how many you are yet to do. Burn up if the amount of work is likely to change. And the two of them focuses on what? What has been completed. Burn down. How many have you completed? So look at this diagram. The burn down, remember what it's meant for. When you have a fixed work, you already know all the work that is to be done in advance. So the burn down is to show what have you done. In a burn down chart, you should burn down smoothly. And what this one means is that every day you do part of the work and the work will be reducing, the work will be reducing, the work will be reducing as you take part every day. This is the ideal way. You can see this black one. This one is the actual. It means that there are some days that the work was a bit slow. Another day the work was fast. So the expectation is that by the end of the time, when the time, maybe the end of the 4 week, you should have burned down the whole work. There should be no work remaining. In a burn up, you do not have a fixed work. Work has been added over time. The expectation is that even though work is added, you are also increasing your effort gradually, gradually, gradually. Okay? You are carrying out the work as is expected. And then work is being added, work is being removed. So this is burn up and this is burn down. You can see from here, this is looking up. This one is just coming down. Fixed work. This is for varying work. Yes. No. It's not that the work has not been achieved. It's just that, look at this graph. Let us assume this is the end of first day. By the end of first day, they should have this effort remaining. But when you look at it, they didn't get there until the next day. However, if you come to this place, you will see that they achieved more within a shorter time. So, what is important is to get to the end here because ideally everything should work fine, but always something could happen that will make it not to follow the ideal way. So, the expectation is the burn down chart, the actual should not be far away from the ideal. Is that okay? It should not be far away from it. It can be if like here, it is farther here, then here it comes inward, and then it should end somewhere here. They should all come down, burn down the work. That means spend the 4 weeks and complete the work. Maybe you will spend the last 1 week to do 40% of the work that could have been achieved in first 2 weeks. Whichever way, you should end down. Over time, these burn down charts help organizations to know how best to estimate their efforts because probably the effort was not well estimated. That is why this one did not come closer to each other, the ideal and the actual. Is that okay? All right, information radiators. What is information radiators? This is used to refer to a big virtual chart. Information radiator. It provides a visual, something that people can easily see. And when we are talking about information radiator, this can be created and you can manage it manually. Information radiator is like a information billboard. It's like a team board. It's like information display which you use in the back office. So what this information radiator does is to display wide variety of information, and they normally use it sometime during the stand-up meeting in order to enable updates to be provided. The information radiator shows what did you plan to do yesterday, what did you do, and what do you plan to do today. So the information radiator is always being pushed as opposed to pull. Information radiator is pushed to everybody, so everybody knows what each person has achieved, what each person is working on currently. And that's why we said visibility or transparency is key to Agile. You don't hide the work you do in Agile, it must be visible. Quality. What is the view of Agile as far as quality is concerned? The quality requires that you must test as you go, or you do text first. You must be able to understand the definition of done and acceptance criteria. Quality control help us to achieve that. What is the definition of done? Definition of done is usually based on what you plan to do, based on the acceptance. Does it meet the acceptance requirements? Then it is defined as done. Quality planning, quality management is something that should be done. However, in agile environment, this may not be done because in agile believes that the quality may change along the line. So if you spend too much time on quality planning, quality management, and the quality changes, then you spend another set of time to do the review. Rather, define the high level and start to develop something, start to carry out the project, and gradually there will be changes as you complete one sprint, then we need to change the quality for the next sprint as well. So definition of done help us to define quality. The concepts of agile are geared towards managing the futures. However, there are a lot of flexibility. Futures in the past, they are all defined in advance, and variation is always not preferred. But in agile, you have to be flexible. Flexibility is key. The quality management and quality planning require some tools to carry it out, and the customer also play a role because the customer needs to agree with the quality of what you produce, the cost of the resources, and how the quality will be controlled. All of that are discussed with the organization. Many a times they are discussed at the beginning before the project starts. Sometimes they can also be discussed as the project continues. For example, if a particular product that you are planned to use, the product is no more in supply, the organization that is producing it, they are bankrupt. What will you do? Then you have to look for another one, and you have to collaborate again with the business, discuss with them to show that this particular quality product that you know of or you plan to use is no more available because the manufacturer is not producing it again, or the manufacturer is not in business again. So you are considering alternative. How do you test your quality? Whatever quality is planned for, it must be tested. In software, care must be taken when you are testing software. Very important. Software testing has many different types. We have what they call test-driven development, behavior-driven development, definition of done. Those are part of the agile terminology that we use. When you test, how do you define that it has been done, the product is delivered? How do you define that it is ready? How do you do a refactoring? And then technology depth. Technology depth is more about how far behind is your own technology or version of software vis-a-vis the current version. For example, Windows 11 is the current Windows. Some people are using Windows 10, some are using Windows 8, some are using Windows 7. So somebody who is using Windows 7 is having what? A higher technical depth. Why? Because the Windows 7 is far behind because there is Windows 8, there's Windows 10, now there is Windows 11. That is what we call technical depth. Okay, quality in relation to scope. When you reduce your scope, definitely the quality will be reduced. Quality is always defined by a quality criteria, and the scope is also defined by the product itself. Anytime the scope is reduced, you need to set the customer expectation for quality, because if the customer reduce the scope, they should not expect the same quality for the scope they had before. So the scoping can be regarded as a quality failure when you reduce the scope of what you want to do. Then you should accept the level of quality that you get, because you have also reduced the scope of what you plan to achieve. Okay, next one, how do we control a stage? Controlling a stage. What is a stage? A stage is like the end of a sprint. Remember, a stage is what we call it in Prince2. In Agile generally, especially in Scrum, it is called a sprint. So the end of a particular stage is what you call a stage. So stages may not exist in Agile because Agile does not use the word stage. However, what a stage simply means is you have a time when you will complete a particular sprint. So the end of that sprint is the end of a stage. And in between the beginning and the end, you need to control to make sure that people keep to time. The project members, they all keep to time. Then there's what they call scrum of scrums. What is scrums of scrum? When you have different sprints going on concurrently, each sprint should have its own scrum master. So the scrum master of the first sprint or of the team A who is doing the first sprint, team B also doing another sprint on their own, there can be somebody who manage both of the scrum master, and that is called scrums of scrum, where you embed multiple scrum under one. According to projects management by Prince2, we used to call that program. So there's what they call program office. Program is two or more projects managed together. The program manager is one that manages two or more project managers. The same way, Scrum Master is managed by the Scrum of Scrums. The Scrum of Scrums, okay? Controlling a stage. How do we control a stage? What do we need to do? To control a stage, you need to plan around what are the futures. A stage is like a sprint. What do you do in that sprint? That is what you call a stage. How do you control it? And for you to control what you want to do, the product you want to deliver, you need to control the work packages, the individual work done by different people. You need to create a flexible work package. You need to have a control on what is being delivered, the scope and the quality. And of course, you need to monitor the risk, agile risk, the risk of not doing it on time or doing it without collaborating or not being transparent enough. All that are part of what we do under controlling a stage. Then how do we control a stage? You control a stage by collaborating, making people to collaborate. By virtual, what is virtual? Example of virtual is information radiator. Let there be a board, maybe a whiteboard. If people are coming together in an office where people use a sticky notes to write what they plan to do, put it on a particular column. Once they start doing it, they should pick it up and paste it on the second column, which will show work in progress. Once they've completed the work, they should pick the sticky note from work in progress, paste it in done, or paste it in testing. That helps to control the work. Stand-up meeting is also another way you can control a stage. Everybody must talk in the stand-up meeting. Another way to control a stage is people should demo what they've done. You can choose people to demo today, another person to demo tomorrow, if it can be done within the 15 minutes. Don't forget, it's supposed to be done within the time box, usually 15 minutes. And then you should inspect and make sure when you're controlling a stage, people, whatever they agree to a large extent, they carry it out. And you remove any impediment for them. Whatever they mention as stumbling block, it is the job of a scrum master or product owner to help remove impediments. Okay, frequent releases. That is a focus area. What's a frequent release? Part of the key attributes in Agile is that with Agile, you do frequent releases. You make products available for use more frequently than when you do a project via the waterfall approach. The advantage is that you can easily get feedback. You can easily know if the product you have delivered after 1 month is not good. So you know that you don't have to repeat the same thing the second month. It's better than waiting till the end of the year to deliver a product. It means you have wasted the whole 12 months of effort. But if you do focus on frequent releases, if you release something every month, if it is not good this month, you can always use the second month to fix whatever issue it is and produce something that will wow the people. You also need to plan how you will continue to release whatever product or service you want to release. Sometimes a release may not go into operational environments. So there are different environments. Sometimes people release a particular new feature in software and they put it in a text environment or development environment to show people, and people will provide their feedback, and based on the feedback they would add more features and then release it into production. Okay, so frequent releases is part of the key things we do in Agile. Very important. There are different ways to view what is needed to be taken into account when planning a release. For example, if you release early, you get the benefits that you need to fund the latter part of the project. If you release early, product can be delivered also too quickly, and that can lead to disruption. So there are different views you take into consideration when you are releasing, and that's why if it's going to cause disruption, you may not release it into production, you may release it into test environments. Managing a stage boundary. A stage boundary is also one of those things we need to do. What you need to do under managing a stage boundary. What's a stage boundary? A stage boundary is the time between when you complete a particular stage. Remember, a stage is also a sprint. When you complete it, that time when you have completed is what you call managing a stage boundary. The boundary between when you've completed and when you want to start a new one. What do you do? Okay, what you do at that stage is to make sure you check what are the things you have not achieved, so you know which one to move out of the current stage. You also need to see how things are progressing, how the teams and the processes are working. Stages may not exist, in what is called agile. Rather, we have what is called sprints. But the same idea can be used in managing a stage boundary. You can also relate managing a stage boundary to what is called sprint review, reviewing what you have done. Okay, what to do under the managing a stage? You assess how much work has been done, what benefit has been realized, and if you have used Agile appropriately, and which process you need to improve upon. So these managing the stage boundary can be similar to sprint review as well as sprint retrospective, which I've mentioned before. Okay, managing the stage, how it might look, you can have different similarities to controlling a stage. That is, for you to manage a stage, you also have to make it virtual. People should know. People should contribute to what they think worked well during the sprints you have just completed, what did not work well. All those things should be made known. It should not be hidden. Retrospective, which we mentioned before. Retrospective is the review of the way of working. It is not what was produced. So when we're talking about retrospective, is it could be a workshop which you have to plan. You need to discuss what went well, what did not go well before you start the new sprints. You must always do retrospective. Remember, we said it's one of the events we do under Scrum, and you get a feedback. Feedback should come in form of facts from people. People should produce facts. It could also be in form of feeling, what people feel about the particular stage or sprint you have completed. Okay, next process is directing a project. What do we do under directing a project? What we may find here may differ depending on the level of maturity of the agile. For the basic environments, the person that directs a project is a product owner. Between basic and mature, a sponsor can be the one to direct the project. In a mature agile environment, the people that direct the project is not one person. Remember, we said so. It is a product owner that directs a basic agile environment project because it's the one representing the business. Whereas in a matured, there will be more than one person. There will be executive, senior user, as well as the senior supplier directing the project. So what to do under directing a project? You need to manage by exception. What does it mean to manage by exception? Anytime there is variation, when people, for example, the project manager or the scrum master report to the product owner, so to say, if the scrum master or the product owner discover that there are impediments, there are things that cannot be done within the costs, within the scope and the time, and so there's need to flex, the scrum master should get that information across to product owner. So that is managed by exception. So this lay emphasis on empowerment. You can also provide, so the product owner can also provide a kind of tolerance for the scrum master so that the scrum master does not come to meet him every time. The scrum master or the project manager can be told what you're supposed to spend is $1 million plus or minus 10%. That means the scrum master can spend up to 1.1. It is only when the scrum master wants to spend more than 1.1 that he needs to escalate. Okay, directing a project, how it may look. You may be pulling information rather than having it delivered. In directing a project, there's need to collaborates. In directing a project, remember servant leadership. In servant leadership, there is collaboration, there is a trust, and you don't involve in blame culture. People who direct a project should not blame people. Even when there are mistakes made, they should not blame the people, but rather see how they can help the people who could not achieve what they plan to achieve, how they could help them to achieve it in the future. It should be a blameless game. There's something they call blameless post-mortem. Blameless post-mortem. That means when something has happened, you need to bring people together to discuss what went wrong and how to make sure it will not repeat itself, and not by blaming people. Blame culture is not a good culture. Okay? So the last part, rounding up, agile contracts. Contracts may need to be created in a way that can be amendable to agile. Every project, there's what they call project contract, right? So the way project contract is drafted when you are doing waterfall approach, it's not exactly the same way it is done in agile. Waterfall approach is regarded as traditional approach. So the way in which contract is drafted in traditional approach is not the same way it is drafted in agile approach. In agile approach, trust is very important. Trust is important because it determines the amount of risk that can be shared. In agile contract, the focus should be on the outcome, what the customer will be able to achieve with what the project is going to deliver. It is not about what the project will deliver as a product. It's more or less how will the customer use it? What will it help the customer to achieve? And also, in the contract, you should allow for premature end of contract. Anytime there is no continual justification for a project, the project can end without waiting till the normal time it's supposed to end. Also, we must avoid including detailed requirements. Very important. This is so important in agile contracts. You cannot put detailed requirements. Why? Because agile is supposed to allow for changes. If the requirements are too detailed, then changes become difficult to be introduced. Okay, the last part, one key part of project management activity or process is called closing a project. Closing a project should have defined processes, and then there should be handover. Regular handover in activities is also important. There should be a process to exit an agile project, and there should be a regular handover. What to do? You must check against the original baseline. Baseline requirements, check against it. Evaluate how you use your agile. Documentation should have been created, and this documentation needs to be made available. We must ensure formality of user acceptance. What is user acceptance? User acceptance is when people use the software, that is, they test the software, they must sign up. They must sign that, yes, it is working fine. They must agree to all the features that this particular project is being delivered to the quality they requested for. You must have user acceptance. That is part of the key documents of closing a project. You can't close a project when users have not accepted. You must finalize documentation which has been created interactively and incrementally. You must have a project to document to hand over when you are closing a project. When you are closing a project, it's also good. You might use a workshop where you demo what you have done, show the benefits that people are getting from the project, and of course, the majority of the information that has already been completed, you need to pass that information through. You can use a workshop to show that as well. Then there's what they call management product and roles. All the 26 management products, what they call management products. Management products are like the documentation that a project manager or scrum master must have to show the work he or she has done and what he has achieved. There are lots of these documents, and they are all in Appendix A, which you have in your material. Prince2 roles are in Appendix B, along with the Agile delivery roles as well. Okay, the last part also is to know about tailoring. We said tailoring, that Prince2 products should be tailored. How do you tailor? Tailoring is about making sure that you implement your project in accordance to the requirement of the, the organization. And these Prince2 products usually are documents, but they are not necessarily documents. They may also involve additional information. They can exist in different formats. This must be tailored. The document you submit when you are closing a project for a particular company that is into maybe media will not be the same one you are going to submit when you do a project for um, organization in healthcare. You cannot be doing copy and paste. You have to tailor the documentation, the product to the needs of the organization. What are the examples of the products? Work package. Work package is the work that are done, the different subsets of work, different tasks carried out. Now, work package comes from those who are doing the work. They provide you a report. They give you highlight reports, and you also have what is called a checkpoint report that you create. A project manager gives report regularly to those who are directing the project. For example, a project manager giving a report to the project executive, or a scrum master giving a report to a product owner on a weekly basis. Also, the people who are delivering the products, they also give reports regularly. In Scrum or in Agile, you don't always work with reports that are written out. That is why you have daily Scrum meeting. From the daily Scrum meeting, the Scrum Master is supposed to gather his report from there. Rich communication. Communication is very important. It's part of the main thing or part of the key aspects of agile behavior. Communication must be proactive. Communication channels such as written words, visuals, verbal, face to face should be encouraged. The most effective communication is the last one, face to face, verbally. Why? Because when you communicate with members of your team verbally, face to face, you are able to read their emotions. You are able to read their unspoken words. So, face to face should be in favor of any other communication approach. Technology can help you as well. That's why you can do Zoom meeting, use different technology that also allow you to show your face using webcam. And that is the purpose of face to face, is that you can't read the unspoken word of people. The team manager needs to be aware of how the team is communicating, or the project manager, as the case may be. Communication should be well organized and should be well planned. Also, workshop is being used. A common techniques in Agile is to always do a workshop. Workshop facilitate interaction. Workshop help people to get clarity. In a workshop, you can get consensus. In a workshop, you can distribute work to people. So we should run workshop correctly. How do you run a workshop? Very important. You run a workshop by first sending people invitation. You must identify what you want to discuss in the workshop. So people's expectation, people know what to expect. If they have any question, they can also prepare their question before they show up for the workshop. It's not good to send the workshop without agenda. Agenda should be there. Timeline, when it will start, when it will end. The agenda will be there. Kanban and Kanban method. Kanban system or Kanban is a virtual management system. That is something that help people to visualize work in progress. It helps to improve day-to-day decision because you are able to see what each person plan to do, what they are doing, what they've done, what they are yet to do. You can see the example. There are 6 general practice to use Kanban method. This Kanban method, what you see here, it could be drawn on a physical board. So it doesn't have to be software. You can have a physical whiteboard where you draw this, just like 4 columns. Visualize which work is ready, which are the work you are ready to start. Then the next one, which one are you building? Which one are you testing? Which one have you deployed in a ready state? Which one is done already? So it shows what is to be done. It shows even where there is a problem. You can see this one with red. That is problem areas. This thing could be done with a whiteboard, and people, each person has a physical, what do you call it, sticky notes. You can also do it with a software where people will type out under ready what they have done that is ready, what they are building currently, what is of in a stage of testing. That is the way it works. Number two, you can limit your work in progress. Everybody sees the work in progress when you use Kanban board. It will reduce the impact of the task switching. You can also pull work when there is a capacity. For example, if under your name there is little or no work, then you can take other work from backlog to do because Kanban shows that you don't have any activity you are doing. Number three, with Kanban, you are able to manage the flow. Waste is removed quickly. The team constantly look at the ways to maximize the flow, to make sure that work flow from ready to build, build to test and deploy. And you are also making the policy explicit. People should know, okay, the policies. Boundaries should be clearly defined about how the team work. You should implement a feedback loop where you get people to judge what you are doing and give you a feedback. Qualitative assessments. Also, Kanban improve collaboration. People collaborate with each other. It helps with process improvements. Okay, Kanban is being used in many areas. There's what they call Scrumban. Scrumban is application of Kanban where the underlying process is based on Scrum. So Scrum and Kanban together, you call it Scrumban. A team can look at how to improve how their system work by carrying out experiments in a controlled and objective way. And that's what this Kanban helps to achieve. Cumulative flow diagram. What's a cumulative flow diagram? This track work item. It tracks what you are doing. So you can see on day 8, how many work are ready? 2. How many is in the build state? 4. Test? 4. How many deploy? 1. How many that are ready to deploy? 1. How many deploy? 0. By day 9, 3 has been deployed. You can see by day 10, it is still 3. So this deploy shows the incremental. So we can have a cumulative flow diagram that will show which what is the number of items of work that are in a ready state, in a build state, in a text, in ready to deploy and deploy. That is what a cumulative flow, it shows how the work flow from ready to build, build to test. That is what that shows us. Okay, Kanban int. A time box or a stage can run with or without a sprint. Kanban help us to reduce the cost of delay. That's also very important. When you use Kanban, you can see where there is delay and you can really reduce the cost of delay. There is something called Little's law. Little's law can be used for forecasting. Forecasting how long it should take a particular work to be done. And the simple way to look at it is to say average number of items should be equals to the time it takes to arrive and the time the item spent in the system. That is the average number of items in the system. The time it takes to arrive and the time item spent in the system. That is average number of items in the system. Lean startup is another thing that can help in managing agile. The core concept of lean are build, measure, and learn. According to lean, you should create a minimum viable product. Don't start by trying to create all the features. Start small. That's the meaning of lean. And also uses what they call fail fast. I mentioned this one before. One of the key behavior of agile is exploration. When you explore, you are likely to fail at the first attempt, but make your failure fast and learn from the failure and validate your learning. Lean startup focus on uncertainty, learning and handling changes, and your learning needs to be measurable. You must measure your learning. Every organization should have people that learn new ways, implement it, explore new ways, make provision or allowance for people to fail, but let them know that they should fail fast. Lean startup. If you are going to fail, like I said, fail fast. What it means is that it is better you fail at the early stage than to fail at the later stage. What that means is if a developer is going to explore a solution, a new way of software, that software, if it failed at the time this developer is doing his own testing himself, that is a fail fast. Rather than when it fails, when it has gotten to the customer side, that is failing at a later stage, and that's not good. Fail fast. Test thoroughly while you are doing it before you expose it to many people to do. Minimum viable product is also very important. It's a version of the final products, and this should be used to validate your new learning, what you have learned newly. Okay, and of course, a minimum viable product may or may not go into operational use. It may just stay at the level of experimentation. It may go into production, it may not. The important thing also here is to release frequently and measure what you release. Health check is also important. For health check, you should assess how well your project is going from agile to how well it's going from an agile perspective. You should do a Prince2 check, health check regularly. Check, what do you check? You check the behavior, Are there behaviors that are agile? The environment, what type of environment, the process, the techniques as well. Okay, transitioning to agile. What are the things to be considered when moving to agile? One, you need to create a baseline. You need to know that agile is an enabler that helps to solve problems and leverage advantages. You must also know the different type of success of a project. The success of a project, the success of business case, and success of agile. These three types of successes are required. Investing in agile, you need to measure it in order to gauge your success. Measurement is key in agile. What are the advice for a project manager that wants to use agile? You must collaborate. You must learn to collaborate. You must learn to set up people such that the people that you set up can work together without coming to you every time to also come and get, you know, permission to do what they need to do. You must leave the authority to do a lot of things with them. You must make sure you provide an environment, agile environment. Plan, monitor, and control. Communicate well, promote transparency, and allow people to explore. Okay, so in summary, Prince2 can be very effective in agile context. Tailoring is about creating appropriate blend of both Prince2 way of work and agile way of work. Using agile again is the question about how much of it should you use and not that and not if or if not to use agile. Agile has been regarded as one of the best practice and so you should continually use it. Okay, so that ends this training. I'm going to